Players are already mad about Blizzard and the War Within expansion. Oh, this has to do with Hero Talent. I have been seeing like a lot of, mixed reception to hero talents. Whether it's people don't like the talents, how they're, shaken out, or they don't like the choices they're going to have to make. Certain spec can only choose between 2 of the 3 hero talents. People kind of wanted more, I guess, of a lore, into it. And we're probably going to get some lore out of this, but they wanted more of like a RP. An RP way of playing the game, not necessarily actual changes to their talents. And we all know it's going to be best. It's people are going to just look up how to spec the best and then just parse it out and then just spec that way. So these aren't really choices that we get to make if you're playing the game a certain way. But we want class skins, not hero talents. Let's see what this video is about.
Are you interested in finding out how they've ruined the War Within already?
Oh, already? That's impressive.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, they have continually said it's not class skins.
Yeah.
Now,
but,
I think they had a problem where it felt like class skins in some of their earliest marketing. But since then, I have noticed they've continually said these are not class skins. These are ways to lean into a certain vibe with your class.
Yeah, it definitely buffs or nerfs certain aspects of your class. And by nerf, I mean like it's going to kind of change the way you play, where there's going to be like certain windows of time for some of these specs where you're just going to pump harder than others. Maybe it changes your rotation up a little bit, but it's not just a class skin. It is gonna affect the way you play your class.
They have specifically multiple times said it's not class skins. So it's that sort of weird thing where if we just sort of go and say they're not class skins, everyone, I'm so angry about this.
Blizzard be like, possible.
We didn't say they were class skins. We, in fact, multiple times in multiple interviews told you all that they're not class skins. Could you please stop judging them as if they're class skins? So it's that weird thing of like, what do a lot of people want? Class skins. That's not what this is.
No,
it's not trying to be that. But the problem is they, for some reason, right, it's a food analogy. It's like brown rice versus white rice. Listen, I know the brown rice has still got the germ in it and whatever it is, so it's technically healthier.
No, it's not.
But great.
Brown rice isn't actually
fantastic.
At all.
Well, I was always told the brown rice was healthier.
So
but I always thought, well, screw that. What do I want? White rice. How do I want it? Sticky as fuck. In my gullet. Immediate blood sugar. Let's go.
Cooking chicken stock. Let's go.
So it's that kind of thing where like, hey, Michael, would you like something delicious thing with rice? I'll be like, oh, yeah, let's go. Because I'm excited about that thing. I sit down. It's like, it's brown rice. It's overdone. It's not clumped together.
Ooh, Leaky. Thank you so much for the sub, man.
I am half asleep, but I am here for Sam Leaky D Love.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for the sub.
I'm like, oh. So it's a bit like that with class skins.
Yeah, well, Joshua Evan asks, what are you guys talking about? Good question, actually. We should maybe make that more clear.
Okay, so hero specs.
Hero specs.
They make. Oh no, I feel. But that's just one of those things where it's like, you don't know that people are going to get that idea because they haven't got that idea yet because it hasn't happened yet. That sounds completely insane. That's actually just me talking about causality.
They let the
We're not violating causality,
Jesus,
but like,
cadence.
yeah. So they call them this, and I suppose for people are like, oh yeah, Hellcaster, or Hellcaller.
I really want to be Templar. I really want to be. Which of these were cool again?
Rider of the Apocalypse.
Yeah, that's cool as shit.
Yeah, some good names.
Hell yeah, I want to be that.
The problem some people had with this was, based on your spec, you only get to pick 2 of these. You can't pick between 3. So I don't know what Templar, but say like Holy cannot be Templar. I'm just throwing that out there. They probably can. But there were people out there who would say, well, I've always wanted to be a Templar and heal and do that shit. Why can't I do that? And I don't know if Blizzard's going to change that or not. They kind of, I think they've leaned into it a bit now, and the way they're balancing it out, it's going to have to stay that way. But people don't like how much it's kind of going to change the way you play, maybe. Like I said, I think people kind of wanted to RP this more than they actually wanted to play it. So we'll see. I mean, as a tank, I'm probably going to go Blood DK Sandland. It just seems like the right choice. We'll see how the actual spec lays out or how the talents work out. But it just seems like blood drainage and shit like that. It's going to make sense that that's the right way to go. It's going to give you more survivability. But that's where all these go. They're either going to up your DPS, up your survivability, or up your healing output. That's essentially what all of them are going to do for you. You're just going to have to pick the right one. You have to go on Wowhead and pick
Mountain
the right
Fiend?
one.
Yeah, that's like the fucking hero from Warcraft 3. Give me that shit.
Rider of the Apocalypse. You could be a Rad Death Knight.
Could be
Awesome.
Could indeed, yeah. Yeah, you want to be a Farseer Shaman? That sounds cool. What other ones called?
Sun
Frostfire,
Fury.
Sentinel,
Thanks,
Dark
Leaky.
Ranger Hunter.
It's going to be
Then
good.
we're going to
Yes.
talk a little bit about Dark Ranger specifically
actually-
because that's the one that's...
What this is the new from level 60 to 70. 70 to 80, even.
Do you play this game, Michael? Don't answer that honestly. So here's what they are. They're talent trees. They're mini talent trees
They're
that
talent
you have
trees,
access to on top of your existing talent trees.
I think they're cool. I actually do need to. I've been meaning.
I thought they were cool, and then I looked at the
Yeah,
Balancer
so,
one, and my brain went,
So what I was saying was the three-way, right? The three-way. Oh, Jesus. So Dark Ranger and Pack Leader can only be picked by somebody who specs into Beast Mastery Survival, right? But if you want to be a Sentinel, you can't be Beast Mastery. That's how this is going to work. And some people, I saw in the forums, a lot of people were having issues with that they want to be able to pick from the three no matter what spec they are. Again, I don't think Blizzard's going to do that because maybe it has more balance that they would need to do and stuff, and they're just not going to play that role right now. But these specs, they do change things a lot statistically. And one thing I worry about is the game's already complicated to get into for new players. This adds more specking into your spec tree. So I wonder like how new players are going to have to deal. Oh, yeah, you got to pick a spec, and then you got to pick a hero spec on top of your spec. Oh, what does the hero spec do? Well, it kind of specs your spec more into another spec. Yeah. These talents, stacking things, systems on top of systems, sometimes it's not a good idea.
I thought they were cool.
But I am kind of excited for hero talents and what it's going to do.
And then I looked at the Balancer one, and my brain
Sremba, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge.
went, abort mission, get me
You
out
know
of here.
what? Talk about playing WoW as a next topic. Because I'm continually seething because I've not been able to play enough because I've basically just been trying to solve problems and make things good here. But it's actually getting to the point where I go home and there's like two things in my head. It's make a really good Notion template and play World of Warcraft. And I keep having to do the Notion template because that's useful for like other people here. But I'm like, and then me and Dakor, we've been talking about like, God, do you know what would be really cool? Just having fun in WoW. For him instead of all the sweat stuff. So maybe I actually do want to talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, these hero specs. Sorry for breaking the flow on you, everyone. Yeah, they're basically they're that. You've talked about them. I think some will be better than others.
Yeah.
Blizzard overtly said, because I do want to be fair to them, they overtly said that they want to get the designs for these out early, and they want to do that so they can iterate heavily.
This is going to be the main part of Alpha and Beta, no doubt. Alpha and Beta is going to be about hero specs. Like, everything else has already been put in the game before. Oh, okay, a new continent. Oh, a new race. All that shit that's going to happen. The dynamic flying for all the mounts. That stuff's going to be easy for them to implement. This is going to be the thing they're going to have to balance and iterate on for the entirety of Alpha and Beta and get tons of feedback on.
Even said, like, if you think that some of these ideas of like a fantasy
from
are
Libya. I
lame,
love your videos.
tell
Oh,
us.
Stramba, thank you
Yeah,
so
Like,
much.
they
A lot
literally
of
said that at
feedback.
BlizzCon.
Some of the Warlock boys,
Welcome
Soul
in.
Harvester, Hellcolor, Diabolist. What the fuck is this Conduit of the Celestials?
Lightning Rod? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, sure, fine.
Some of these are very
Well,
mysterious.
you can
though.
immediately tell there's some of these that aren't that exciting, basically.
Yeah, and they, I think, knew some of that themselves, which is why they asked for feedback. So
yeah, they're like,
that
this is
basically-
some first draft shit.
Yeah,
Please.
it's to say that they were fairly open and they were overtly receptive to feedback, and they continually said that they're not class skins. And it's that challenging thing. This has an overlap with an ideal version of the thing that we all can agree would be really awesome if they could do it.
Yeah,
And it has enough of an overlap that it then conjures in your mind what a full Dark Ranger sub-spec or something would be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is exactly why
Which
I've
it ain't.
seen it be connected to Garrisons too, in the sense that it's like this is it's not even like it's trying to be. It's literally just this is kind of we can't commit to giving you exactly what you want
They're
for
not,
whatever reason, be it productive.
they're not going balls deep. That's what it feels like, really. They're just, they're like dipping their toe in the water, putting just the tip, whatever analogy you want to use. They're giving people what they've been asking for, but just a little bit of it. And I'm not sure if that just a little bit is enough, or maybe we were better off just not getting it at all. But I guess we'll find out.
Production heavy,
All
maybe we
depends
don't
on
think it's a good
outplay.
idea,
This could be the
etc.,
best thing
etc.,
ever.
etc.
Who knows?
But like obviously, as like Saffron's points out, it's like we could have just had class skins that are completely optional at set exchange, but instead you're forced into two options that might not fit. And now,
Yeah, when people say class skins, what they're really talking about is like a skin for your spells. Kind of like what, if you remember, oh, what were those things called, man? They would like change your sheep into whatever, oh my God, inscription would make them, whatever they were. I can't remember. I don't even remember what they were called. Glyphs, yeah, glyphs. They're basically class glyphs. That's what people kind of wanted. They wanted like a basically glyphs on all their spells, glyphs on the way their character does things, and not really a change in their rotation, but a change in the way that their spells look and everything works. So that way they could RP, their ass off on Moonguard late at night as a Sandland. That's really what people wanted. This goes in a different direction where it gives them a little bit of that, but it also is attached to player power, so they might not be able to actually be what they want to be. They're going to have to spec to the thing that makes the most sense and puts out the most damage or healing or whatever.
we could have just had is
That's
a
the problem people are
massively
having.
loaded statement, because it's like, what's your source for we could have just had? But from the player perspective and experience, you go, well, would you rather have some extra gameplay choices that are in here? It's like, yeah, they want to increase power. They want to give us more talents. And this is their solution. Their solution was, we can make mini talent trees, but we have to frame them in some capacity. Oh, this is a good idea to add little bits of tiny bits of fantasy.
Yeah.
So we can create
Yeah.
effectively what are really miniature subspecs. And we'll have those subspecs shared because we kind of like a little bit of that. Just have them shared. Makes more sense. We don't have to do one individually. We can like make them kind of work across, so you can have access to these.
We got
these aesthetics
garrisons.
and these
Oh,
kind
no.
of not class
Oh
game.
no, Monarch, please don't tell me. Don't give me that comparison because it kind of makes sense. What if this is for basically hero specking or new specs? What if this is the same thing as garrisons were for player housing? Where Blizzard kind of gives people what they've asked for, but only like partially? Oh god. That would not be good. It's a bad one.
But these,
Oh no.
these
Now I'm
abilities,
scared.
right? So obviously, if you want to be a Dark Ranger, that's for BM and for Marksmanship Hunter. So like, you want to be a Dark Ranger? Yeah, you can be a Dark Ranger without being locked into one specific spec. That's cool. What is Dark Ranger? You get Black Arrow and a couple of things. I think the problem is someone goes, well, do you want to be a Dark Ranger or do you want to be, a Shadowpan monk, or do you want to be a Mountain Thing? People are like, what have people had in their heads for these specs, these kind of additional aesthetic addition to classes, all these aesthetic overrides of things? Because one of the things they pointed out was the Mountain Thane Warrior literally changes abilities, gives him more of that vibe. I can't remember what it was. It was like there's more lightning during Thunderclap. You can Thunderclap a lot more. There's what is it? Is it like Stormbolt splits and hits like 3 targets with Lightning Blast as well?
Yeah, it splits.
Stuff like that. And you're like, that's kind of crazy. That feels like a tiny version of what we could have with a full
Mountain Thane is the Thor. It's your Thor warrior basically.
and that's where we get into like this really
It's just all
full,
lightning. Which is
There's, like-
cool. Like some of these sound really cool, and I think these could be really fun and neat to play with and stuff like that. It's just it's weird. It's like not enough of what people wanted, and at the same time, it goes a bit deeper than people wanted because it actually affects your output. So it's interesting.
I guess basically it is just an issue of people wanting a thing,
It sounds like
not
this.
getting it directly,
crushed his
getting it
soul.
slightly in a different format.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be that. But it still takes away from that.
Yeah.
Because the problem of the player looking at this is cool, but I wanted this. And they're like, we were never offering you that as a binary choice. But it's almost like, hey, you're hungry? Well, here's some here's a bottle of Lucozade. And you're like, sure, there's sugar in that. Sure, but I was hungry, not thirsty.
It is of type consumable.
Yeah.
But it is not of subtype food. Therefore, I'm unsatisfied.
Yeah, it's someone's hungry. And
Yeah, I mean, King Julian, there have always been cookie cutter specs and cookie cutter ways of doing things. But when it comes to RP, people don't want cookie cutter. They just want to pick something and not have it really affect how the game works necessarily, but just how they look, how things aesthetically work for them. I think that's what a lot of people wanted out of this stuff, and instead they got something that now is going to have to require balance and require choices be made almost for them in a way. And I think that's the problem people are having.
You don't give them something to eat. You give them something.
Yeah,
to
see,
drink.
like, look at this comment. If it was entirely cosmetic, players could easily enjoy it without having any drawbacks. But forcing it into gameplay strips away the original identity of these specs. That's what people are having issues with. Is like, this is kind of forcing choices, changing things a bit in a different direction than they wanted it changed. It goes back basically to, if you remember Shadowlands, when they weren't order halls, whatever they were. You had Maldraxxus, you had the other zones and everything, and you had to pick one, essentially, to be in. Covenants, yes, for the entirety of the expansion, and people liked them for the aesthetic. People wanted to make a choice just based on the aesthetic, but then they attached abilities to them. And once they did that, well, it was time to go to Wowhead and check which ability worked best for your class and spec, and you had to go to that one if you wanted to, like, actually play the game correctly. So that was what people had an issue with. People didn't hate Covenants. They hated that they didn't get to pick the Covenant. And I hated that too. Early on, I had to sit in Ardenweald. And, like, Ardenweald was cool, but for a Blood DK, it just didn't make sense to me. Aesthetically, I felt weird being there. Like, I don't belong here. And then eventually, some things got tweaked, and Maldraxxus became the best one. I was like, okay, good. Now I can actually go to the one that I would have originally picked from the beginning. But I never picked it because Wowhead told me it's not the best one. And that's what happens with some of these. People aren't going to get to pick what they actually want because it goes beyond aesthetic.
It's reasonably nutritious. Something along the lines of, like a Gatorade.
I picked Night Fae because it was the best
cool,
at the time.
That's not it. Can I have the food that we weren't offering you food?
So sort of going through our statistically significant, absurdly representative, commensurately true subsampling of tweets, which obviously represents the entire World of Warcraft community.
Yeah, full on, like, walking out the street and picking random people. Like, this is what this is. This is what this is. It's like, it feels like a half measure, even though from creation, it isn't in any capacity designed to be that.
Oh, no.
It's not supposed to.
Oh, no, there's your comment. This feels like class skins, what garrisons were to player housing. Yep. God, this is bad, man. This is bad. That's not good. That's not a good comparison.
Certainly,
Especially with now, obviously, a lot of these people are people who are not game players.
If anything gets compared to garrisons, it's going downhill. Like if I have my work, if I have my review at work at the end of the year, and they tell me, Sam, you did all right, but you kind of were a garrison this year. Be like, fuck, I'm gonna get fired. That's it. I'm done. I'm done, man. My boss just told me I was a garrison. That's like one of the biggest failures ever. Shit. Yeah, anything that gets compared to a garrison is it's not good. Anything that gives that is not good.
As far as I can tell from looking at them. So they're immediately going to go, why do I have to pick talents that make me look cool? Why can't I just fucking look cool? Which is, you're going to get a lot of the problem, right? Where this is gameplay design that is smuggled in under the aesthetic change.
yes.
Yeah.
Or that's how it feels like, people who want the aesthetic change.
I think what I will say, if I'm going to plant my flag in the ground in this one, is I think class skins would be absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
I did not expect class skins. I am not disappointed that we're not getting class skins. I realistically think that they probably have a lot of artists working on big features for Midnight. I think that
class skins Midnight.
Take like animation department. I know that they have a pretty damn heavy workload as they update all of the mounts, or at least as many as they can do. So, like, yes. More things in the best way possible would be great.
Yeah.
Obviously, 10.2.6 is player housing. That's Holly's surprise.
Yeah.
But I'm still, I'm not going to be like, well, because it's not the best version of what it could be, I hate it. Because as I look at this, I'm like, you know what? Sure, that seems like a cool way of letting me lean into some different things for my, for my classes, and I also respect that they're doing it in a way where they're not kind of committing to infinite vertical progression.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want infinite. You don't want the AP grind to continue or any of that shit to come back because that becomes too much and it makes the game feel like a job. But Cadence is kind of speaking to one of the main issues with this thing that people are having. He said, "I just want trees." Rhett, I want the tree Rhett is going to have because I absolutely love Lightsmith tree, but it's only for Prot and Holy. Yeah, so some people are having that issue where you want, and honestly, I don't understand how that's the case because to me, Lightsmith and Ret, that sounds like they go together, but evidently they don't. That literally sounds like the right combination for me, but that you can't pick it. And people are having issues with that. They can't spec into what they want because these actually have gameplay mechanics behind them. Whereas if they were just an aesthetic thing, you could have picked anything. I know, right? Sacred weapons. Literally, when I think of Turellian, I imagine him being a... when I think of Turellian, to me, he's a lightsmith ret paladin. That makes sense to me. His weapon is very lightsmithy. You know, we've seen his weapon before. He's got the sword where literally half of it is made of the light. That's what a lightsmith is to me. And if I had to pick a spec for Turellian, he seems like a retribution paladin. Right? The way he fights, he goes in, uses. He's not a Healy boy. He's not somebody who's gonna, finesse the way through. He's not Prot. He's going in. He doesn't have a shield. He goes in with his sword, lightsmith sword, and he just hacks shit down. Right? That's what Turellian does. So to me, Turellian is a lightsmith ret pally, but you can't spec into that because it's not a choice that they made for you. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to change that or how. But if they did, they'd have more balancing to do. So they probably won't. Is to figure it out.
The talent trees. Yeah. So for me overall, I'm like, this seems.
I see him as a Templar more than anything.
Reasonable and positive.
Yeah.
Maybe,
because that's what it is
in weapon
isolation from expectation.
Yes.
It's the problem of expectation brings dissatisfaction over the quotas. It's like you go, I would have liked class skins. You're like, you brought class skins to the table. No one ever said class skins. No one was ever vaguely considering it. But you brought it to the table. Thus, being disappointed is on you. But also, there's the reality of if your players are disappointed, then that is your problem to deal with as a developer. Which is really annoying.
Yes.
But it's also literally true. Like, how do you deal with this? Extremely good communication and doing the right thing at all times. Which is kind of the problem.
So let's take a look at Dark Ranger then.
Actually, just before you say that, actually, that's a good point, Pavel. It takes away from the chance of us getting class skins. Like a Battlefield Guild.
Yeah, you won't get class skins anymore.
Yeah, it's like this is now...
Fair, that's a good point.
There is overlap between this and class skins, which now means because this has happened, we're substantially less likely to get class skins. Almost completely unlikely to get them.
You won't.
Because you're not going to get a Dark Ranger skin. That changes all your stuff to Dark Ranger. If you've got a Dark Ranger ability called Black Arrow. That's there. Yeah. And that's one of the other problems where it's still like, class skins were never even brought to the table as like a possibility ever. But it's just... We've wanted it, expected it for so long.
Yeah, it's just some people have made really cool looking bits of art and put them in Reddit, and everyone's like, "Oh, look at that!"
Glyphs were the original attempt at class skins. I felt like that was the first time where you're like, "Oh, maybe we can get some aesthetic changes and class skins in the game," and we never that never came to fruition. This is like a legitimate attempt at it, so that's why I think now that we're getting this, class skins will never happen. This is class skins.
And then all the artists at Blizzard have probably thought, "Oh,
that would
look
be
at
cool."
that." And then their producers and team are like, "Yeah, but we sort of have to ship the game." Slight problem.
Yeah, well, we'll see if this actually how this plays out. Like I said, of everything Blizzard announced, this is going to be the thing that has the most iterations, the most changes, the most testing going on in beta and alpha. Like alpha and beta testing is going to be these hero specs. And so people are going to have to give feedback, and feedback is going to be important going forward. We'll see how they turn out in the end, and we'll look back on it and be like, hey, this was a great thing, or this was actually shit.